The first trait is called resilience. 什么叫 resilience? Resilience is the ability to bounce back from failures. 我失败了，我不怕。I'm standing up and I'm going to keep trying until I succeed. That's resilience. 什么叫 intellectual independence? I like it, not because you like it, not because you told me so, because I like it. And I discovered this process by myself. 比如说，一个孩子喜欢蚂蚁。Every summer, the student goes to a remote part of the forest and collects a bunch of insects. And he brings it back for study, for research. His friends might think he's a freak. Parents might think he's an idiot. MIT would love a student like that. That is what I call an ideal candidate. A lot of parents ask me, 要是你没有告诉我麻省理工学院喜欢这两条 how do I discover it myself? It's very easy. It's called read. Read about the school. 很多亚洲小孩申请大学的时候，他们唯一 only care about is the name. I'm a valedictorian. I want to go to Harvard. I'm this, I'm that. I'm good at math. I want to go to MIT. 这是一个错误。Every year, many applicants get rejected because of this. Students should pick colleges based on 哪一所大学更有可能性去欣赏我这样的学生。after I read all these colleges, 我最欣赏哪个大学的教育方式。That is called understanding of the fit. If you know nothing about MIT, if you did not know these two traits, 咱们先看一下麻省理工学院的历史。What did MIT start off as? A 理工学院。They started off as an IT school. 麻省理工学院说，全世界最聪明的科学家 should be all from our university. And they have done a great job. Guess what? 150年以后 MIT now has one of the best undergraduate business programs. They have a great liberal arts program, and they still are the undisputed champ in terms of IT. It is the best IT school in the world, arguably. A lot of people in India might say IT is better. But the school's original mission is to develop scientists. Right? If you look at these two traits, what profession includes the most amount of individuals who possess those traits? I hope someone can really answer this question instead of me answering it again. 有谁? Which profession has the most amount of individuals with these two traits? Scientists. 这就是科学. That's a very scientific way of selecting students. This is characteristics of a scientist. 我失败了. I fail, I don't care. I'm going to do it until I succeed. I might die before I succeed, but I'm going to continue. My wife don't like it, my kids doesn't like it, I like it. I'm going to stick myself in this office for 30 hours a week and non-stop. These are traits of a scientist. And even today, you could be an applicant to MIT engineering school. You could be an applicant to a liberal arts school. You could be an applicant to the business school. You must have these two traits to get into MIT. In fact, I can give you 5 examples of kids who are flawless. One of the kids won an international award. 国际上的一个奖. The other SATs 23, 80, 23, 90, none of them got into MIT. Why? None of them talked about failure. No one talked about a time when they failed and how they have succeeded when they have failed. Why is this so important for MIT? If you know anything about MIT, it is hard. You could be a genius from Africa, you could be a genius from Latin America, from India, from China. At MIT, you will fail. At least once. And because you will fail, you You must prove to MIT that I had failed, but I stood up and I succeeded after I failed. Look at the MIT application. One of the questions asks you, describe a time when you thought it was the end of the world, but if it had not happened, you wouldn't be here who you are today. You know what a lot of kids do? They answer that question literally. Oh, this one time I went to a camp and I'm afraid of animals and I have to run through a whole forest by myself and I thought it was the end of the world. But if I didn't run through that forest, I will never be able to go through a forest. That's not what MIT is asking you. MIT is asking you a time when you have failed. And you thought it was the end of the world. But if you didn't fail, you will never realize how sweet success would taste. So right here, just from this one school, I bet you half the things that I talked about, none of you had a clue. Or none of you understood any part of this. If you don't understand the school, how can you apply to the school and expect success? That is the number one problem that all students must get rid of. They must understand these schools. And for Asian applicants especially, it's time to stop applying to schools based on name. You have to apply to schools based on what they can provide for you and what you can provide for them. Not necessarily just a name issue. I'll give you another example. A school like Yale. Yale University. For the past 55 years in a row, one candidate from each side, the Democrat and the Republican, have been a graduate of Yale. Now I'm going to ask you, what do you think Yale's ideal candidate imagery is? I don't think it's very hard to figure that out. So this is what I mean by ideal candidate imageries. And this, coupled with that process that I talked about before, is the overall process of the American admissions process. A lot of parents also ask me, 申请中国大学更难还是申请美国大学更难? I think this is a stupid question, but nevertheless it's still, fairly intelligent. 中国大学, by probability, by law of large numbers, is hard to get into. 3万个 applicants, 20个人推荐 for a school like 清华或者是北大. In America, 3万个 applicants, 2000小个推荐. So ratio-wise, it's easier for American university. But demographic-wise, it's a lot harder. 在中国, you are competing against Chinese applicants. 在美国, you are competing against applicants from the entire world. That makes it exponentially harder because there are some kids that are from countries that are very hard to pronounce that just are sickening. They're geniuses. At Columbia, there's a student from India. He has a photographic memory. 就是他读书的时候, it's like him taking a picture of each page, and that's it. That's all he has to do. So it's very hard to get in because of this diverse pool of applicants. Second thing is, it's very hard to graduate. 一个孩子是不可能混入一个美国大学. You cannot do that. You will get kicked out. You must study your hardest even after you get into a college. 所以进了大学，这不是一个最后一页. This is the first point. Because